Okay, at 6:48, Dr. Alex Harrison joining us for Morning Rounds, and today we are talking about pacemakers.
Yeah, I thought we'd talk about pacemakers and try and provide information to the audience. Pacemakers are devices that generally treat slow heart rates, or something called bradycardia. And a pacemaker works by monitoring the heart's rhythm, the electrical system that regulates how often the heart pumps. And if it beats too slowly, oftentimes patients can feel poorly, lightheaded, dizzy, lack of energy. Sometimes if the heart beats too slowly or doesn't beat at all for an extended period of time, people can faint or pass out. And pacemakers are indicated for this reason. And so we have a graphic illustration of what a pacemaker is and where it's implanted and how it works. It's implanted through a minor operation, a small incision, generally over the left chest, and a needle is passed into the vein, and two pacemaker wires are then advanced through the vein to the chambers of the right heart, the right atrium and the right ventricle.
Pictured it like right on your heart. You know, I don't know, I felt like it had to be right there. I didn't realize it was off to the side.
No, generally the pacemaker, what's called the pulse generator, is that circular thing, and they're quite small these days. They're about as big as a silver dollar and only maybe about a quarter to a half-inch thick at most. And they're generally not visible underneath the skin, depending on how much soft tissue there is. And the leads, or the pacing wires, go into the vein, and like you see there, go into the right atrium and right ventricle. And that monitors the heart's rhythm and can provide an electrical stimulus to the heart to beat when it's beating too slowly.
For somebody who is, if it's beating too slowly, that's when you would need a pacemaker. Is there other things that you do before the pacemaker? Is that the last option that you have to regulate your heartbeat?
Correct, yeah. I mean, you look for any treatable or reversible causes first. So if somebody is taking medications that potentially could slow the heart, you want to stop those first and see if the heart slowing effects are reversed. Sometimes thyroid dysfunction. If you're very, very low on thyroid, called hypothyroidism, you can have a very slow heart rhythm. And so you want to look for potentially treatable and reversible causes before rendering somebody a therapy that is invasive, like a pacemaker.
Is it requiring general anesthesia? It's full surgery?
It's not. It's actually a very minor operation. It takes anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, and you're just given some mild sedation and local anesthesia with some numbing medicine over the skin, and it's just a 2-inch long incision.
Quick and easy. It seems like it would be more major than that, but that means people get to go right back home and right back to normal life.
Yeah, it's generally, a pacemaker. We put one in on one day and watch them overnight and send them home the next morning.
Okay.
What kind of patients are eligible for a pacemaker? I know some people, if you have any other illnesses, you can't have that kind of surgery. Or, for example, if you're diabetic, there's some surgeries that you can't have. Is that the same case with the pacemaker?
No, there's really no limitations in who can have a pacemaker.
So the pacemaker only kicks in if you need it to. It's not like it's keeping your heart going. So they probably last, I would imagine, for quite some time. But what happens if they need an adjustment or a battery change? What do you do then?
So generally, depending on how much the pacemaker is used, the battery life is anywhere from 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
And then if the battery is showing that it's wearing down, it's checked about once every 6 months. Through a device,
like a sensor,
exactly, called a pacemaker interrogation. And when the battery is wearing down at the end of that 5 to 7 years, a small incision is made over that device, and the circular pacemaker is actually removed, and the leads are kept in place, and a new pacemaker.
The new device is inserted with the new battery.
So the actual pacemaker itself is the battery. It's not like you go in and put a new AA in there.
Right.
Are there things that you can't do when you have a pacemaker, exercise or do? I mean, obviously you could exercise, but is there some restrictions that you have?
Really, no. Initially, after it's first implanted, we have patients not do any vigorous activity, particularly on the side of the device, because we don't want the leads to be dislodged. So if it's on the left side, we have them not lift their arm up really high for about 4 weeks. But There are no real restrictions. People can golf, bowl, do whatever they need to do after it's been in about a month. The only thing they really cannot do at this point in time is have an MRI, because the magnet
would interfere. Would it mess up the pacemaker?
Well, it's just the devices are magnetic, and it could.
It actually pulls.
It could be dislodged and not
rather
function.
than an interference.
Right.
Going back to the battery, I was just thinking about the way we charge things. Like my electric toothbrush just sits on the charger, and there are phone chargers where you just have to put the phone on it. Is there a thought in the future that sometime you would just put the charger on and recharge your pacemaker without having to go back in? Is that something that could happen in the future, that technology?
I suppose anything is possible. I haven't heard of anything similar to that. Basically the pacemaker device, the entire size of it is the lithium-ion battery, and it's pretty remarkable, the technology. When the first pacemakers began, it was these huge external devices, and people basically pushed this cart around
to where we are now.
To where we are
amazing.
now.
Wow.
Yeah. So anything is possible, but I don't think so.
Okay. So we'll see if that technology develops, but for now,
maybe,
still
you're onto something there. You better patent it.
Still amazing what we're doing now.
We'll work on it.
Through medical science. If you have questions and comments for Morning Rounds, you can send those into Dr. Alex Harrison if they are heart health related, and he will address those on the air when he returns.